host Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios with none other than Maddy O'Neill coming in from Denver, Colorado. Maddy, how's it going today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Don't you just love those technical screw-ups that take 53 minutes to fix during an interview, and it's not your problem? It's the actual live streaming company's problem?
Yeah, love it.
Oh, well, you know what? It looks like we're going to be able to possibly accomplish this interview today. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I know you're so busy running around, doing interviews all over the place, but we're going to jump right into everything. You just released your LP, or 10-track LP, Ricochet. Tell us about that, how that album came about.
Well, it's been in the works for it was in the works for 8 months or so. I started it last December and it's finally out in the world. I'm kind of in that afterglow phase right now. Yeah, I just kind of came together. I just felt like it was time to write my next big project. I had been doing singles and EPs and remixes, and there just came a time where, I just felt like I wanted to write the next big project, and I kind of just dove in. I spent a month and a half experimenting and, gathering kind of like my palette, so to speak, before I started writing. And yeah, I got some really awesome guests on the record, and yeah, I'm just happy that it's in the world.
Most people release singles or EPs. What made you go with the full LP on this?
I had done about 4 or 5 EPs over the last couple of years and doing singles, and there's just something special about a full-length album that I can kind of explore, go a little deeper. There's less pressure, in my opinion, when I'm writing an album, because it's, I can have chill songs, I can have bangers, I can kind of give people surprises, little tidbits of things that if it was just a standalone single, people might be like, oh, like what direction is she trying to go? But if it's on a record, I can explore and be more versatile. So it was really awesome to be able to stretch out a little bit.
And I liked it so much. I listened to it twice this morning while doing research on you. It was awesome. I still can't figure out which one is my favorite track off of it yet. But if you had to pick one of the, is there a feature track that you're really trying to push out there that says, like, I mean, I remember days of old when I was a kid growing up, you'd get an album and it'd have that radio playable song on it. And then, then it had the B-sides.
Yeah.
I don't think is there anything called the B-sides anymore because nobody flips it over. I think that ended with compact discs, right?
Yeah.
So is there an A-side, B-side to this? Is there like, and usually it was always like track number 2 or track number 3 because you'd have that buildup. Was it laid out like that, or did you just, like you said, kind of got to put everything on there that you wanted to put on there and say, here's Ricochet?
Well, I wrote about 40 songs when I was going into the album, and then these 10 were kind of the ones that I decided on because they felt cohesive. And yeah, I just tried to pick my favorite out of like the big batch that I created. So yeah, I have favorites in all different ways. Slow Motion is my favorite chill song on the record. It was I wrote it in the middle of winter, and it was one of those songs that I sat down to write, and then it was almost like I blacked out. Like at the end of the song, I was like, what just happened? I just wrote that. I was like so in the zone when I wrote it that, yeah, that's one of the coolest feelings when I write a song too, is when I'm just like, I couldn't recreate that if I tried.
I had to mute my mic because I live on one of the busiest, worst downtown street corners in Seattle, Washington, which would be the equivalent of living on the corner of Times Square in New York, but doing that in Seattle, Washington, where we're at. And so the ambulances and fire trucks use it as their thoroughfare to go up and down. And I was in an interview recently, and didn't realize how loud it is in the background. The ambulance was like right there going, wee. So I was muted.
Right outside.
I heard everything you said there. And, that's awesome. Being able to put that out. Now, do you release on a label that you work with, or you self-release?
This one was actually an independent release, which I'm super proud of. I had a really awesome team behind me, kind of supporting me to be able to do that and feel comfortable enough where I am to do an independent release and having all the right avenues to promote it properly, because that's one of the things that labels are, beneficial for. But if you can do it on your own, more power to you if you want to own your masters. So yeah, I've worked with a bunch of amazing labels before, and they kind of helped me get to where I am. And not saying I wouldn't do it again, but for this one, I really wanted to give it a go and do it on the independent side.
What was your strongest motivation to pursue a career in music? Because from your bio it says you were self-taught you self-taught yourself as a DJ and being a producer.
Yeah.
What was the motivation to do that?
Well, I grew up in a very musical family. My brother was in a bunch of bands in St. Louis, indie rock bands, and my dad was always playing records around the house. We had like a music den in our house, so it had like all of the instruments, like just like random drums and ukuleles and all the things. So yeah, I was constantly surrounded by music. I just like it took me a while to find my avenue into it. And I never stuck with an instrument. That was always like my older brother's thing. So I was like, well, I can't do that. Like that's his thing. I got to do something else. But, secretly I envied him, and I got him Ableton, which is the software I used for Christmas one year. He gave me the demo version, and I was so curious that I just put it right in my computer, and I was intrigued. I went to Guitar Center, I bought a MIDI controller, and I dove down a YouTube rabbit hole. So, yeah, I mean, I just like I had it. I know I have it in my blood. I just had to like figure it out. It wasn't until sophomore year of college that I really figured out that I could be a producer without being a virtuosic piano player, you know?
And we have a lot of fans that are coming in from you pairing your channels with us today. I'll give some shout outs to them in just a few moments. But I love what happened, what you just did there of telling us the background of how you got involved and what your motivation was, because my next question was going to be, do you come from a musical family? And you just led right into that. And I always love it when that happens on the show, where the questions just kind of like, the guest answers the question before I get to ask the question. It's awesome. Now, you said you learned a lot on, dove right in watching a lot of YouTube videos and things like that. Did you ever go and get any formal education, or was this are you still just completely all self-taught?
No, I have zero formal training at all. When it comes to DJing or producing or mixing, I kind of it was like trial and error. I definitely had some friends that I would hang out with when I was learning how to produce. Some of my fans might know, like Michael Menard and Late Night Radio and Mikey Thunder. I had this original gang in Denver called Super Best Records, and it was this group of people, that I had met initially getting into the music scene. So me and Alex, Late Night Radio, when I was in my old project, we used to just call each other like every day and be like, check out this song I made, or check out this tool that I just learned, or this, technique. So we would share things back and forth with each other. But that was the extent of my like formal showing me how to do something. Training.
Awesome. I'm going to take a quick break right here to give some shout outs to your fans. We got Maddie, we got Caitlin, we got Caleb, we got Roses, or Redder, we got Wall Lead, We got Justin, we got Jessica. I want to give you all a shout out for thank you for watching this. You're all watching it on Facebook. And thanks for tuning in. More questions coming this way. Is the first record, or it doesn't sound like, did you start with vinyl or did you start in the digital age DJing?
So I started producing way before I started DJing.
Okay.
Which is really interesting. They feel like most people do it the other way. They start DJing and then they're like, I want to make my own songs so that I can DJ them. I just wanted to figure out how to make music. So I started with vinyl sampling, but not DJing. So I would go to record stores and pick up vinyl and I would sample it with a USB port direct into my computer. And I would just like create sample libraries for myself, start chopping them up. And that's how I learned a lot about how to produce, was doing it that way, is finding records that I loved and chopping them up. And yeah, so I did learn from vinyl, but not DJing.
And do you remember the first record that you bought? And is it worth mentioning or is it embarrassing?
I don't remember the first record that I bought because I would go, when I first started digging, I would literally dig like blindly. I would look at like a cover, not knowing who it was, and be like, wow, look at these motherfuckers. Like, I want to see what this sounds like. So I have a huge vinyl selection downstairs. So I would just come home with stacks like from the dollar bin. Yeah, there's notes on the back of them. I'm glad that I did that because even 10 years ago, I would write next to it like, this one has a good sample, or like, things that to come back to later. So yeah.
And how would you define success as a DJ / producer? Is that a Beatport top 10 hit, a sold out tour? What are your thoughts on this?
I'm just blown away every day to know that I have a career being creative and doing something that I love. And I think at the end of the day, that is the ultimate success. As long as I can continue to do that, I'm happy. I've definitely am very grateful for where I am today and, the growth that I've had. A lot of the people up in the chat have been, following me for a long time. And I really just turned up the heat a little bit on my work ethic post-pandemic. I really just got even hungrier. I was like, if this is what I want to do, I thought I was giving it 100%, but I wasn't. There's always a little bit further that you can go. And I think that this past year, I really just changed my lifestyle habits and really kind of dove a little bit deeper into what I do. And I think my success as of lately, I think, is a direct reflection of how hard I've been working, which is awesome to say.
Well, Maddy Ream says, you can say it, you're a badass.
Thanks, Maddy.
I definitely know what you mean about success and working on something for years and years and years. We were doing our show since 2009. I was kind of off and on with it. Always wanted to be something bigger than it was, and was always progressing. It was late 17 when I kind of took a model and put that in my head and said, this is what it's going to be like. Moving into 2018, came into late 19 saying 2020 is going to be an awesome year.
Yeah, same.
And the cool thing is, though, is we were a live streaming show. So really, we were already online and doing everything online and set up for that infrastructure. And then everyone jumped online in 2020, and we took a seat back, and said, wait, we got to start figuring some stuff out. Let's get our brand in order. Let's get our ducks in a row. Let's put everything ready and get it ready. And it was 2021 when we launched our new rebrand, like version 3 of the website, social media, all that fun stuff, and came into 2022 with my new team, that I had helping me out with outreach and international PR. And now we're press accredited this year to go to ADE, and we're looking to do an IMS ADE Winter Music Conference and South by Southwest. partnering
Hell
with major labels and sponsorships. It's like, and there's always little additions that happen along the way. Like you said, that you think you have it 100% here, but
yeah.
you really look back and you had like 35%, and there's always so much more.
Yeah.
So it's awesome seeing that growth happen over time, and being able to follow somebody like your fans are definitely who have followed you and watched your career rise. We have the same kind of thing. I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Question is though, can you make a living with just your DJ and producing work?
Um, I am currently. Finally. So yes, I think that that's a yes. And I think that that's, I hope that my ultimate goal is to make timeless music. Um, so I think the record that I just put out is that. And I think that when you're a producer and a DJ and you release music that people want to stream over and over again, that is kind of like your retirement plan. So, not that I want to retire anytime soon, but I'm just saying, I think it's lucrative if you really go all in and you're making timeless creations. You know what I mean? I never wanted to be the DJ that, followed the trend and blew up really fast and then the trend changed and everyone forgot about you. I'm trying to be as genuine as possible, and I think that that is way more timeless and lucrative career-wise than some other routes that people take.
Yeah, again, relating to that, I've had people thinking that I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for years and years and years,
Yeah,
when really I was like, this is being supported out of the lint of my pocket. They
yeah,
didn't know I was like living not even almost paycheck to paycheck, but going to food banks and
yeah,
literally like to make, but keeping the art alive, and you got to push through some of those struggles to attain your goals and get to where you're at. And even now, we're still doing comfortable, but we're looking for that next level. So you just keep pushing through, and it sounds like you're doing good, and that's really awesome. I'm going to drop another comment in here because this is a nice one. Skylar Robinson, you deserve all the good things in your life and coming your way. Maddy, super duper proud of you. The new album is fire.
oh, thank you.
To drop that one in there. Um,
Appreciate
how
it.
do you how do you balance your DJ producer career with the other obligations in your life? It sounds like this is a full-time gig for you, but how do you balance that?
Um, well, that's been a learning process. Uh, Luckily, this is my only job, and it has been for the last couple of years. Um, so I don't have another career obligation, which is really nice. Um, but yeah, when you're on tour and even just like finding the time to like stay up to date on your bills or, make sure your car tags aren't expired. Just found that out the other day. Like stuff like that is like there's so many like life things that you need to handle, especially when you're on tour all the time and I'm fully immersed in this lifestyle and I love it that way. Um, but yeah, I had to change up some of my personal lifestyle habits to meet myself here. Prior to 2020, I was kind of really burnt on touring and I was partying a lot. And I literally I didn't feel healthy, mentally or physically. And so 2020 happened and I was like, okay. It was a pause, I was terrified and I didn't implement the things that I have in my life now until much later into the pandemic. But coming out of that and then towards the end of it, I realized all the things that I was missing that were preventing me from growing and from being more productive. And that was, having some sort of routine, even when I was off the road. I didn't even have a morning routine at one point because I wasn't a morning person. And, you know, I would just wake up and be like, oh, I don't even know like what I have to do today. Nobody's telling me what to do. I'm in charge of my own life and productivity. So yeah, I started waking up in the morning and doing yoga, moving my body every single day, and listening to music while I was doing that to kind of inspire myself. And I feel much healthier, and I quit smoking cigarettes, and I made a routine for myself. I said I need to work on this amount of new songs a week, or, make lists, and yeah. So if that kind of roundabout answers that question.
No, I can totally again relate to that. I was in my local community very heavily for a number of years, from probably 15 till about 17, and I started noticing certain traits, certain things, certain energies that I was not vibing with, that I did not like, and I kind of took a path of calling it out publicly, of saying this is not a supportive environment, and it wasn't a good environment, and was told that I was going to lose a lot of friends for being vocal about it and that kind of thing. And funny thing was, those friends never invited me to the barbecues or over to their house for dinner or anything like that. But we're friends on Facebook. We know each other, see
Yeah.
each other out all the time. And it's funny, when I took that model, it was almost a 2-year cleansing, what I call a social detox, a social cleansing,
Yeah.
and that led all the way up until that started in about late 2017, 2018, and for those 2 years up to 2020, I really got more focused, because I wasn't going out all the time, I wasn't partying, I wasn't going out on Friday, Saturday nights, staying out till 6 in the morning, doing that, and really finding out who my supporters and fans really were, that I wanted to work with, and shedding a lot of that angst and animosity and negativity out. So that's why I said in late 19, I'm like, I'm ready to go for 2020.
Yeah, right? I
Like,
was not, but
and,
I
and,
was like,
and it's like, okay, that was fun. And then my phone started ringing off the hook, and everyone was calling me saying, how do we do this live streaming thing? You're the guy who's been doing it for 10 years. I'm like, then realizing everyone that was calling me wanted to be my competitor. I'm like, wait a second.
I wanted you to, yeah.
You want to do what I'm doing? Okay,
Like,
okay,
wait a
I'll
second.
help you out. But no, it's awesome. You're right. And my to-do lists. I would not survive if I didn't have my to-do lists.
Yeah.
It literally, if I put it down, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and if I don't put it on paper or put it in my phone, my head will start spinning. I won't go back to sleep. I'll get up and I'll have to start working. So that's how I keep that in line.
Yeah.
You know, Carl Cox, born July 29th, 1962, just turned 60 years old and is still rocking the major festivals. Do you see yourself DJing at his age, or would you retire from the DJ life?
I think my ultimate goal is to get to a point where I can, pick and choose the shows that I want to do. You don't have to say yes to everything. And that and that means getting to a place where I can curate my own events. Make it more of a personalized experience of what I want people to see from, you know, from my vision. It's I'm putting on the show that I want to put on. And as long as, Carl Cox can do that. He's not touring, playing 100 shows a year. And that's that's ideal. You know what I mean? So yes, I would love to be a legend like Carl Cox.
And speaking of tours, you're on tour right now. And the next show you have coming up, and I was looking at the lineup, I'd never heard of it before, but it's Lost Lands. Tell us how excited you are to be playing that show. I mean, that lineup is just huge. I mean, huge. It's so big, the list can't even fit in my hands on the screen.
I know. I actually need to work on that set today. But yeah, I mean, everyone says that it's the Super Bowl of bass music. So my expectations are high. I'm really excited to see what it's all about, and I'm pumped to be included on the lineup. I'm playing like 2 a.m. Sunday night into Monday morning. So I'm hoping the headbangers are still banging.
They will be.
Yeah, I know.
Is the biggest crowd that you've played? So you played events obviously prior to this, is the biggest crowd you've ever played for, has that been your best crowd, or are you still waiting to find that best crowd, or is every crowd the best crowd? I gave you a nod.
Um, Not every crowd is the best crowd. I'll be completely honest. But every show has its moments. One of my favorite ones from this past year is Summer Camp Music Festival. It's definitely one of the biggest crowds I've ever had. And I've kind of been like indoctrinated into like being a local there. I've played like 7 years in a row, so a lot of the fans are returning, and I get to like grow this little festival community that gets to see me year after year. So that one is really special to me. It feels kind of like my home festival, and yeah, that was one of my favorite sets I've ever played. I see someone said Secret Dreams. That one was really fun. That's actually the same location as Lost Lands, but they just had the dinosaurs like parked in the woods. It was really funny. But yeah, those two were great. I got to play Lollapalooza this year, which was insane. Just being a part of a festival on that level, like that caliber of an event, was pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, everywhere I go, it's just cool to see, you know, that the internet is real. You know what I mean? So
Wait, you can touch the internet?
yeah, woo! You know what I mean? Like the people that you're talking to, and you're like, oh, you live here. You know, like putting the pieces together of like where your fans are. Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool to meet people all over the country and kind of like see where I have pockets of squads.
And you mentioned the internet being real. Have you looked at doing anything in the metaverse yet? Have you done anything in VR or been asked to do anything in virtual reality?
I haven't. I'm very curious. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the next couple of years even is gonna get real wild in that.
Definitely. We just soft launched 2 virtual reality nightclubs in alt space,
Oh, wow.
entry and beta, and we're just putting the final touches on them so we can start grand opening them and then do interviews like this being inside there. And then we can also do record release parties, meet and greets. It's a whole nother world. It's so
Oh,
awesome. And we see it as being, I've always been an early adapter to technology. So, you know, I was in public access television in the beginning, back in the early 90s, got into broadcast television because that was the
right,
only distribution for video other than
right,
film, but you didn't make film and show interviews in the theater really.
right.
And then when podcasting came out, the video podcasting came out, we were very early adapters to that. And then live streaming as well. And obviously on top of all this, you have your websites that people started getting websites, and then social media on top of that. But
Yeah,
now we're seeing virtual reality being that next frontier where you're going to have a ultimate branding experience on multiple different platforms. It's not just, there's not just one Facebook or there's just one MySpace.
right.
People remember MySpace, you know,
Yes.
there's alt space, there's VR chat, there's Solarium, there's Decentraland, there's all these different virtual reality worlds where you can pick and choose your flavor of how you want to interact with the metaverse. So, you know, we're excited for that to start up and,
That's so
start
wild.
moving forward. Yeah, we're really, really excited for that, and putting on shows and concerts, and even on our nightclubs, they could be used for, you know, comedy shows or live music shows or open mics as well. And it's just an interesting experience when you get in there and the people you can meet. So definitely should check out our clubs if you get a chance. I mean,
Yeah,
I know you're busy, but you can do it online.
yeah,
And
link me.
yeah, there's a lot going on in there. Let's see. Next question coming up. Does gear matter when being creative? Or should an artist just be able to go with anything to awe their fans? What's your take on that?
In a live setting or in a producing?
I guess in a producing setting, I mean, you mentioned you used Ableton earlier with a MIDI keyboard. That's how you first, or a MIDI interface is how you
Mhm.
got started. Are you a hardware or software producer combined?
Combination of things. I would be a hardware person much more so if I had the funds to buy all my favorite synths. That's definitely the goal. I think that there's an aspect to just the analog tones that you can get from hardware that is like, as much as you try to replicate it digitally with VSTs, you just can't get it. So yeah, so I would 100% be a hardware person. I've cycled through a bunch of different synths. I started with like the Korg MS-20 with like the patch bay. I rock the Novation Base Station 2 right now. That's kind of like my go-to little mini synth. But yeah, I've been kind of cycling through, kind of looking for that next investment for a big synthesizer that's going to be my girl, my go-to. Uh, so yeah, I think it definitely does not matter. You don't have to have a certain thing to make great music. It's all about taste. Um, but yeah, I kind of do both. I use a lot of virtual synths, and then I've been kind of experimenting with hardware while I'm researching getting my next big purchase.
And I remember back in the day, I had a laptop. I had a laptop in 2000, and on that laptop, I had Fruity Loops 3. And I
Nice.
thought it was the bee's knees. I was like, yeah. And I'm not a musician in any way, shape, or form. I grew up kind of like you did. My brothers were musicians, and my dad kind of lavished upon them. And in our house, at the time in the mid 80s, we had a personal home recording studio that was probably in today's dollars 80,000 probably worth of gear that my brothers didn't like to read books, and I was 8 years old, so I'd sneak into their bedroom and I'd read the manuals and like hit the buttons and do crazy things, and then they'd beat me up for playing with their gear, but then they'd always wonder how I did some really cool stuff. Like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, I read the book. And they're like, okay. And I'd show them how to do sample effects and MIDI and connect it all and do all that fun stuff. But I always had like a passion for making music. I used to own a MC505 Roland and an SP808 Roland back when I was going to college about 20 years ago. And that was just for fun, just to play around and have fun. But
I have a 505 back here, but it doesn't work.
Oh yeah, it was such a fun one. The 505. Yes, I love those. Oh my gosh.
Throwback.
Yeah. That was so fun. I would just get the two together and sit over at my friend's house, and I'll give a shout out, even though they're not one of our sponsors. I get the Captain Morgan's rum and coke, and then he'd smoke, and we'd just be sitting in his living room, and I'd just be playing with that sequence because he was a DJ with specific vinyl only, never would use CDJs. Awesome. And I just sit there and play music and make little beats on the sequencer and sample stuff. I love those two little pieces of gear, and don't have them any. I wish I still had those to this day.
Yeah, the screen doesn't work on that, so it's kind of like just random.
Oh no, yeah, it was so fun.
You need to find someone to fix it.
But yeah, anyways, musically, I wouldn't say I was musically inclined, but definitely the musical influence. I turned more towards video, obviously, and played with Dad's video camera that I wasn't supposed to touch either. So, but that being said, if you could pick one producer outside of your genre of music that would be your favorite producer that you listen to or love to hear what they release, who would that be and why?
Madlib. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's a fucking genius. What is that record that he put out? The Sound Ancestors. That was one of my favorite records. He's just completely outside of the box. has that old school vinyl sampling. I know he's been working with a lot of instrumentalists to create a lot of his recent works too, kind of sampling from a band environment, which I love to do, as you can see as well. Yeah, he's just everything that he touches is completely like mind blowing. Yeah, so he would be my favorite producer. And
Have
Mr.
you,
Cormac is also up there right now too.
yeah. Have you ever gotten shy in the presence of someone famous?
Um, I met Beyonce. So yes. But yeah, I mean, it's always very humbling to meet, you know, a lot of my big influences in the electronic world have become my friends, which is cool. But definitely when I initially met um, all of these people that I look up to, it was kind of like this moment, and I think that's cool. Um, as long as they're not a dick and you wish that you didn't meet them.
You know, I've interviewed a number of people on the show, and I've always found everyone to be really very nice, very accommodating. Only, I mean, maybe a statistical average, I'd say if I did 99 interviews, maybe one, if I did 99.9 interviews, I don't know how you do 0.9 of an interview, but only 0.1 of them have maybe been like, okay, you could tell they were maybe a little disinterested. But,
Right.
you know, something I've seen, it's interesting at some of the local level, you know, like in our community, not trying to throw any shade out there or anything, but, you know, some people get a big ego on themselves when they're not really that big, when they don't have that stature. And I've always found that the higher up, the people that are in this, the business, they're like you're touring, you're doing stuff, humble, nice, sweet, caring, outgoing, fun. They just like that ego gets shedded. And I think that's a big thing that I hear some people saying, that, you know, that's one of the things that if you're going out there for the fake things, or not fake things, but the fame and the money, that can kind of ride on your ego. But if you go out there doing it for the love of the music, that will transpire in what you're creating, and that'll flow through, and your fans will recognize that and want to follow you because you're genuine.
Yeah.
You know,
I
so
you can tell I mean, I can tell right away when I meet producers or DJs that are in it for the wrong reasons, and they don't usually end up being my friends, so so, yeah,
I need to get that list from you to check off who not to have. Maddie says no. Maddie says no. Is there something that you see that's really messed up in the DJ scene, and how would we go about changing that?
Um, I think that drug culture is a major, major issue. Um, as we all know, the last couple years has gotten even more dangerous, with, fentanyl and, people dying, left and right, and I think it's a huge issue. People even DJs, promote this, like, party, 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 party lifestyle, um, and you don't have to do drugs and get fucked up to go to a show, um, and if you are, I think that there's nothing wrong with that either, um, but people need to know how to be safe about it and to feel comfortable and to have the resources that they need, to feel safe in an environment, um, in regards to the other sex. Yeah, I think that safety at shows is a big issue, and I think people are making uh, progress in trying to figure that out, how to make environments safer for people. But at these big, big festivals, there's always something that is going to go wrong. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
I'm still trying to figure out how to do my part in that sense too, but I think that it's a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, how do you take party culture out of the party? I've talked with people that do shows, obviously in the U.S., and people that do shows in Europe, and one of the questions I ask is, you know, after seeing the rise of electronic music in the U.S. scene, does it differ, or does it compare to what's been going on over in Europe? Because it's been the big festivals and everything have been happening over there for years and years and years before the rise of electronic in the States, electronic music in the States. I mean, I started in underground literally at a nightclub called the Underground in 1992, going out as an 18-year-old kid. And we were the party kids. And then the rave scene happened, the Candy Kids happened, and that kind of blew up. But it was still at that time, Nirvana and Soundgarden and rock and roll was prevalent in the States. It was not on the cover of Rolling Stone, and I don't know. I mean, it was sort of when you got into the late 90s, you started hearing it playing out at nightclubs a lot more. The DJs started becoming a lot more prominent at the clubs, especially here in Seattle, which was the hotbed of grunge music for the world, in that time. And, we started seeing the band club, the clubs with bands in them started fading away, and the DJs started giving rise to the DJs, which was interesting. And then all of a sudden it was like, bam, here's DJ, music and DJs playing out. And that was the hip thing to go do. Gosh, did I just use the word hip in a sentence? Oh, gosh, I'm not that old.
You're talking about the past.
Yeah. I guess I can use it because it's in the past. Yeah, that makes sense. But, and then it became obviously the big festivals, the big, huge, massive shows. And then you get into your EDCs and, your Lost Lands and, and then we had cell phones come out with and people could start taking pictures and sharing this on social media. Mm-hmm. And then everyone started going, whoa, let's go to that. And it just started this huge groundswell of electronic music. It's just been very interesting. But how do you take the party culture out of the party? I think that's almost synonymous.
We don't take the party culture out. I just think we need to make it safer.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are synonymous, and that's, we know that. I just think that, every venue or festival need to make bigger efforts to have resources for people to test their drugs or to know exactly where they need to go if they don't feel safe, or, things like that. And I think we're making progress with that. But I think that, it should be a priority for venues.
Absolutely. There was a couple organizations here in Washington that did that. And I think one of the reasons that the major company up here didn't want I'm not speaking for them, just I'm kind of remembering stories told, was that if they brought on an event company or a company that did drug testing on site, that they might be heralded as that they're promoting drug use.
Right.
And so how do you get around that with saying, we want to be safe, we want this to come here? Can that be done in the States, safely, or other states may say, we love that, we encourage that. How does that look on the whole? I'm all for that. I think that's a smart thing to do. I think it's a safe thing to do. But, are you now promoting illegal drug use? And hopefully
it's gonna happen no matter what. Like, we all know this.
Well, hopefully we can, if we can see, and this is a big hope, that we can see the cannabis. If cannabis can move down from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2, it opens it up for more testing. And then if they can start, like some states have legalized mushrooms, for psychedelic, and now you're hearing about ketamine testing going on for depression, things of that nature. So I think they're on to something here where it can be safely regulated and out there, but it might be a few years out before everyone gets on board. But I think when cannabis started becoming legal in multiple states and they saw it as a revenue form and a tax form, I could go all down that because I used to be in cannabis business for years back in the day. But I think
Colorado, so I see.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we both, Washington and Colorado legalized it at the same time. I was actually down there for the Cannabis Cup in 2014. 13 or 14. Wow, that was crazy. That's a whole nother story though.
I'm a huge proponent of psychedelics and and weed and everything. I just think that there's other substances and things that are being synthesized that are not as safe, and there should be an outlet at shows if things go wrong.
Absolutely. I always pray the safety crews. I think are really an awesome thing to have at events. Even if you're throwing a small event, you have a couple of people there, or if you're throwing a large event and you have a whole team of 50 to 60 or 100 people there, kind of walking around, checking things out, making sure water's being handed out, or knowing where to go to direct people to the right. You're right. The safety tents or whatnot is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Um, do you think you'd ever stop making music in favor of another art form?
No. I mean, over 2020, I think every human, no matter what you were doing, had that thought. Like, what if my career doesn't come back? Like, who am I? What am I doing? What else would I do? And I felt like a total crazy person thinking about not making music. It's kind of like my chosen form of expression, and I can tell if I don't make music for like a week or however long. I feel it. Um, so I'm not saying I'm not interested in other art forms, but I think no matter what happens in the course of my life, whether I'm choosing to do music professionally or not, I will always make music.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely correct. My personal take on it is once the copyright thing finally gets finalized, which is going to be an interesting thing because a lot of artists had to struggle with that. My take on people going online and using online as a platform and making their own labels and self-releasing is going to be the next kind of forward thing that people are going to be able to do this and make a living doing it with fan support, things
Yeah.
like Patreon, donations, all that. But the biggest one, the little three buzzword letters that have been on everyone's mind, and even though the market's dipped a little bit, was NFTs. Did you actually think about releasing anything as an NFT with Ricochet?
Um, I've thought about it. Well, just getting into the NFT space in general. I had a couple of opportunities come my way that were a little shady. Um, and they kind of like burnt me on that space for a little bit. Um, so yeah, I just, there was so much that went into making this record and getting the art right and getting, all of the assets together and the mixing and the mastering and, I'm working on vinyl and merch and, like there's so much that goes into writing the record post writing phases. That I just, I didn't want to overwhelm myself. But I am still curious. I'm very curious about the NFT space. I just have not found the right thing for it yet, or the right people to work with.
Yeah, luckily I have a guy up here who's like a super genius and knows all about it, knows all about the crypto market and everything. And we're still trying to figure out how to get our videos like this interview and make it an NFT. And then what would be cool is we can attach your wallet to it. And then we put up a limited amount of these and your fans could get an NFT of this interview. And if it ever moved or went out, you would still, obviously something would go to your wallet. And it's really cool. But our files are usually like a gigabyte in size. And most people are working with an image file or a smaller music file. So we're trying to get a gigabyte. And my friend has got an algorithm that gets it down to like 100 megabytes, but even that's huge for NFTs. But we're working on it, and we're super excited to see.
Zip this thing.
What's that?
Like, how many times can I zip this thing?
Exactly. It's just an interesting world. We're barely scratching the surface on it. But again, like you said, you're focusing on your releases, your albums, your songwriting, your touring, just like I'm over here getting ready to launch our own album and get ready to go out to other countries and be on the red carpet again and doing VR nightclubs. And I'm like, do I really want to throw NFTs into the mix? So I totally understand it from there.
Sometimes you just need to focus on the task at hand. I'm so curious about all of those spaces, and I would love to hear from you post interview about the VR worlds and all of that. But yeah, I didn't want to get burnt out or overwhelmed. Like I was talking about how I was in years past. So I'm trying to really pick and choose where my focus goes
Yeah,
currently.
I've done that a few times, and now it's been working fine ever since I got everything ratified, I guess you could say. But I
Wow.
want to know, I have a few more questions here before we let you go. Tell
Yeah.
us about Maddy merch.
Ooh. I actually just finalized it this morning. I have yeah, good. Um, I will be launching my vinyl next week, for this record, which I'm really, really pumped about. There's just something so special about having your work in physical form, because it's like you create music on a computer and then you just send it off into the internet, and then I'm like, oh, what? Can I like hold it? So yeah, I have my old one right here, actually. This is my last EP. Yeah, but this is in the works, and then I guess I can tease a couple of items, or just one item of merch. I made a sweatsuit for the first time. I've really been wanting to make an amazing sweatsuit that you can just rock as your airport attire, all winter long. So I'm excited about that combination. And I know someone said clothing your fashion sense is 100 over there. Yeah, I'm a big fashionista. I'm a big jacket queen. I love a good jacket. I will sweat through one on stage just for the look of it. So yeah, I have a lot of fun designing clothing, and I'm excited about this next round of merch, which will be out for pre-order very, very soon.
Would you say that sweatpant jacket line is influenced by where you live?
A little bit, yeah. Totally.
Because I'm here, I would think most people think we do like raincoats and umbrellas.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
but anyone who actually lives and is from Seattle, anyone that is not from Seattle, they're the ones carrying umbrellas. If you're from here, you don't use an umbrella. That's kind of a little trick.
We're just like,
But yeah, awesome. A couple last questions here before I let you go. If someone wrote a biography about you, what do you think the title should be?
oh, wow. I wouldn't want to name it myself. I'd be curious to see what other people had to say. I don't know. I would have to think about that. That's a big question.
It's okay.
But I think something about, as much as I hate talking about being a female in a male-dominated industry at a certain point, I think that is, I think I've been a big part of that trailblazing effort. So I think that would have something to do with it. Yeah, I feel like that's a big attachment to my career and the path that I've taken, the road less traveled.
Or less traveled. Awesome. We're gonna give a shout out to some of your viewers right now in Facebook land. Let's
Yeah.
see. We got Ashley, Jessica, Skylar, Maddie, Joni, Caitlin, Caleb, Roses are Red, Leah, Dustin. Let's go down the line. I just want to say thank you for Maddie again, Kenzie, Walweed. I'm just going down. And that I just want to give a shout out to all your fans that were there in the chat room.
Hello, everyone.
And thank you so much for watching today. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go?
Most of my tour dates are on sale now at my website, maddyoneillmusic.com. There's a couple of big ones that I still am announcing. One next week that might be related to
Try to point the right way. I'm normally on that side of the screen, and that's what I do.
Right.
Here,
There we go.
I'm gonna do this right there.
Oh, now I'm all fucked up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a big home Town Throwdown announcing next week, so keep an eye out for that. This is the first time I've mentioned it. All the rest of my tour dates are on sale. I'm doing some dates with Opio, with Sodown, with STS9, some headline dates. Covering a lot of bases this fall, so hopefully I'm coming to one of the cities near you. And yeah, please go stream the album front to back. Give it a solid rinse in your car, on some good speakers. Show your friends all of the shares and the just following my Spotify page, liking the posts, all of those interactive things that you can do really help me out and go a long way, because we live in an algorithmic based social media world, and I need your guys' help to get this heard as much as possible. So I
Absolutely.
really appreciate all you guys commenting. I've seen all of your names over and over again, and it's really awesome to see the support just continued over the years. It's incredible, and I love you guys so much, and I hope everyone enjoys the record. I felt like I just gave birth.
It's funny. I've been hearing this over and over again over the last probably 10 to 12 interviews I've done, that people refer to their music or their tracks like children, and some children grow and flourish, and some children never leave the sandbox.
Right.
And you never know which one's going to grow, or even the one that's in the sandbox, it may take a little bit longer for it to get out there into the world and start getting traction and growing, but it is like individual children. So I definitely kind of acknowledge that, because I have the same thing with like an interview. I put it out there. I never know if somebody's going to pick it up, and then all of a sudden it gets 15,000 downloads. I'm like, whoa, okay, that I didn't expect that. Oh, okay, cool. And then the next one does, like, over the course of time, it does 15,000 downloads. It's all like you said, algorithmic. And where you hit it at. But thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure having you. We are definitely going to be following up with you like we do with every artist that comes on the show every 6 months for the foreseeable future. What's that website? One more time, it's going to pop up right below you.
Yeah, I did it right.
Yeah.
So all my tour dates are on my website. There's a couple announcing very soon. I'm dropping merch and vinyl very, very soon, and I'm really pumped about both of those things. So yeah, just pretty much just stay tuned to the page. There's plenty more to come.
Awesome, Maddy. Well, we're looking forward to it, and thank you for coming on the DJ sessions today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad we got it up and running.
Yeah, I know. There were a little technical hiccup before that, but it all went down well. And thank you to the viewers that came in as well. So on that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on Meta, find us on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're out there, thedjsessions.com. We even stream live to Roku, Amazon Fire, Google Play, and soon to be Apple TV. Check out our VR nightclubs and alt space. You can even download our mobile app. All of that and 600 stories, live interviews, exclusive mixes, and more at thedjsessions.com. I'm Darren, coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington. And that's Maddy O'Neill coming in from Denver, Colorado for the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.